It's really good stuff. I mean, I think Frank's done a great job of getting guys to, pour it in the zone, but at times too, those guys get ahead in the count and had located some good pitches. And, to their credit, the last 2 weekends, regardless, been two different teams. So against both teams, getting ahead and then hitting spots later in the count has tallied out some strikeouts for them. But I think you got two guys that really like to compete, and they've both improved greatly since being on campus, and they both got stuff that's probably going to allow them to pitch as long as they want to pitch.
Do you like that battery with Liam throwing to Cannon, two guys that have a lot of energy?
Yeah, I think anytime Cannon's back there, he adds his own flavor to the game. Him and Cal were like that 1-2 punch for us. And then Stone now, I think, based off how he caught last weekend, I think it's kind of the same thing. I think both those guys can catch any of the pitchers that we've had, and both of them provide a lot of strength back there defensively, but that personality you're talking about, I think, as well. I mean, the guys love throwing a Stone. Because of who he is, and then like you're alluding to, Peebles is going to compete for you like crazy at the plate and behind the dish when he's catching. So blessed in that category too.
What do you like about the discipline from your hitters so far? I think it was 22 walks on Tuesday, 9 today. Gavin Keelan had 3. Feels like they're seeing the ball.
Yeah, and the complementary fact that they make guys pay when they're in the zone. If you don't, then there's more incentive for guys to throw strikes. But I think some pitchers know that our lineups with Coach E's tutelage has, basically had a good reputation of being able to drive the ball out of the park or hit for extra base hits or do damage on pitches that are in the zone. So I can't speak for the other team, but maybe that guy gets guys nitpicking a little bit. But whatever, our opponents have been doing, our hitters have not really given them a lot of breathing room as it relates to missing spots or nitpicking around the zone.
How important has it been for Cannon to get off to a good start at the plate this year after kind of the way first month of the year with last season?
I think it's helpful, but not a necessary ingredient, if that's fair to say, because I think he's kind of in a different place, and I think he's set up in a real positive way, even though some of the things that went on in the past weren't positive. And we're talking about a guy that, we don't get to the second game in Omaha in the winner's bracket. We don't win the whole thing without his at-bats for us. So, but what you're alluding to is he came in with a bunch of hype and great expectations, and he tried to conquer the world, and he realized you really can't do that. All you can do is get out there and play your best, and at times he did not do that. And I think we're in a position this year where, regardless of what you guys see on these stat sheets, we're going to get his best mindset and his best effort every day. And then, being in this cage area, he's prepared as well as any player we're going to have too. So I think he's in a good spot because of all the good things and all the negative things that have happened so far in his college career. And we're getting the best version of him defensively and offensively.
Coach, those 9 walks today bring your season total up to 58. You mentioned the plate discipline. How do you think that combines with the power that this middle lineup has? And number 2, do you think that this plate discipline is sustainable going into SEC play?
I think it's sustainable, but, one thing you're going to get is a lot of, pitching staffs that are coached very well, but have some of the best pitchers in the country too. So if the numbers tail off, that's one thing, but I think the approach is what we want to keep consistent. So I think it is sustainable to have that approach, but to keep the numbers as league play enters and other guys, we see on the mound, come about, I think that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I think the power is you'd rather have a 3-run homer than a solo homer. So you'd like to think the two can complement each other. It's just today it didn't really happen for us. I'm not complaining. And 5 runs on a day where obviously it was chilly, and we saw some guys with some quirky looks too on the mound. I think Peebles might even mention that to you guys. So we didn't really have it click to where we put up a big number of runs, but just having that capability of getting guys free bases and then a guy that can slug it out of the park or hit you a double or whatever it might be, I think is going to be fun for us.
What did you think about the quality of the at-bats there with runners left? I think there were 12 left on today, but some of those at-bats looked all right. I mean, was that just one of those baseball deals?
Yeah, I think some of them were guys battled, but man, the 2 lefties they threw at us, really had different looks. And some of their pitches didn't do the same thing twice. I could hear our guys talking to one another. And we've got scouting report information, but it's so early in the year, you got to kind of take it with a grain of salt. So no real complaint for guys taking too big of a swing or not competing or anything crazy. It just didn't click for us in particular. If anything, I think they get some credit for how some of their pitchers handled pressure, if you want to call it pressure situations or situations where there was a bunch of guys on base.
This was your first full game of the season.
Yeah.
How does it feel to have a couple extra innings?
Weird. Weird, but it's nice when the weather gets better as the day goes on. Normally it's kind of going in the descending direction. But I'm just glad we got to play today. I'm glad we got to play 9 innings. In this case, we used only 2 pitchers, but if you backtrack, really what we lost last weekend was 6 probably guys making their first appearance for the Vols, and some guys are probably still waiting because of that. But it's what we got going on, so glad we got more repetitions and looking forward to tomorrow.
What does getting to 300 career wins mean to you at this point?
You want the real answer or the smart aleck answer? Actually, they're both they're both kind of the same. I don't know when that's coming either. John Wilkerson ruins my life. He's such a great asset for the program, but he ruins my life, probably about every other week. He throws a stat at me that I don't want to hear, like what our ranking is or any of that stuff. So we'll just leave all that up to the loving relationship with a minor bit of hate I have with John.
You believe in rat poison then?
I believe in Nick Saban, whatever he had going on down there. Some of that, whatever he had going on down there worked. All the ingredients involved worked for Alabama football, and for us, we got our own thing going on here. So we don't have that phrase in our repertoire, but I've heard guys talk similarly to each other in here or out on the field. And I think the biggest thing is our guys need to learn how valuable last year was at learning to write your own narrative. And I use the word leadership when I talk to you guys a bunch in the fall, because we didn't have to do anything. Like the Evansville game, game 3 was the one I use if I go speak to a group. I've said it a million times. Getting out of the car, I was like, how do we spend this? How do we attack this day? And then it was like, oh, I don't have to do anything. Just because of the way the guys were talking and the way they were acting and the focus they had. So this group is still finding their way on who can lead, who are leaders, how do you need to follow the leaders. But I think they need to realize how valuable it was last year to write your own narrative and use your own, catchphrases, whatever it might be.
What do you want to see from Marcus Phillips tomorrow in his debut?
Just to continue to progress, because it's been so fun for him to, kind of go from, is he going to pitch for us at all, to is he going to pitch for us, in a situation where the game's contested, and then what inning is it going to be? He started and relieved a little bit last year, and now we know what his role is for the time being. Just want to see him progress a little bit, because I guess the storyline I was trying to paint was from a long time ago. He started it here, and he's worked all the way to here, so might as well keep plugging along.